Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 12 of the anime series Erased. For all intents and purposes, the series finale, and I absolutely loved the way this all wrapped up. We were basically gifted scenes that were taking place between last episode and this particular episode, where we see, of course, Satoru and Yoshido Sensei up on the roof, where he's enlisting people like Kenya and Hiromi and even his own mother. And it was really cool getting that insight because of how this does play out. Satoru is really getting inside the mind of the sensei and coming to that realization and making the sensei himself come to the realization and have to confront the fact that in the 15 years that Satoru's been in a coma, you know, he could have dispatched him any step along that journey. And at one point we even see the sensei, I don't know if he's going to give him a shave or if he's trying to, cut his throat or whatever, but like he could have enacted something along those lines any time during the course of the period that he was in a coma, and he hadn't. And Satoru really flops it on its side and says, look, sensei, you cannot live without me. And I was like flabbergasted by what Satoru does, launching his wheelchair almost off the roof. And of course, Yoshido Sensei grabs him just at the last second and is holding him with all of his strength. And, you know, the words passing between them, the sentiments passing between them, and the sensei himself calling back on the one hamster he had let survive and had sort of taken to observing in the aftermath of all the ones he murdered and all these things. The spiderweb effect, leading to heaven, all the symbolism here. And at the last second, do we see the sensei needs this to end for himself. So he lets the wheelchair go. And when you hear kablam, just like, I'm speechless, because there's the sensei. Then he's getting up like he's going to go, careening off this rooftop. And lo and behold, down beneath them is the big airbag that caught Satoru, and he has had everyone he enlisted. Kenya's there, his mom is there, Hiromi's there. I think the reporter guy might have been there because there was some suggestive words along those lines. And even in the last episode, we saw Kenya walking out of the hospital room, having visited Satoru with the guy. They've been after this whole scenario, after this case for the last 15 years. With what they knew about it. And this scenario was perfectly conducted to make sure Yoshido could not escape it. He attempted to kill Satoru, and that was it. That's it for Sensei. And I love, like, the rest of the episode is sort of more of, Satoru's getting back involved with his friends of old and everything, seeing them all grown up. I think he, stops off and sees Yuki at some point. Oh, speaking of which, the little girl, Kumi, I believe her name was, the sensei was going to have it set up so that there was like a muscle relaxant or something along those lines that would have killed her in her sleep, just prior to the surgery she was meant to have. And I was so happy that they ended up, stumbling onto this and being able to prevent this from happening. Because, not only would it have killed a young innocent girl who's already suffering so terribly, but it would have been angled to look like Satoru had done this, and the sensei was hoping, fling him off the roof, and it would have looked like suicide out of remorse, out of guilt, and all this twisted stuff. I'm so glad that none of this actually worked out. But all of that said, there was one nagging thing all through the course of the episode that I was feeling like needs to come to fruition. And even Satoru himself, when he's calling back on what happened in the previous episode, confiding in Kenya, confiding in Hiromi, when he's making that realization, living up to his very, younger days equivalent of looking up to his favorite hero and wishing he had friends he could count on and a group that, they could conquer evil together and all these things that do finally eventually happen. He has that realization of, I do have friends in the here and now. And one of his immediate thoughts is back to Airi before, time sort of reconfigured itself and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, Airi, where is she in all of this, and can we bring her back in, and will we get that sort of closure? That's the last bit of closure I wanted. And sure enough, as we find out, Satoru is a manga artist, and he's kind of loosely adapted aspects of his and his friends' misadventures and everything in a sword and sorcery kind of framework, which is apparently going to become an anime at some point. He's being congratulated for that. Do we find him, sort of roving over old stomping grounds underneath that bridge? It's snowing and all this beautiful sort of backdrop. And I'm like, if there is any other time, if we don't get an appearance of Irie in this moment, I will, like, punch my mobile screen. But sure enough, he sees that revival butterfly, that blue butterfly, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm realizing there is no revival, but he's, sort of doing the director thing where he's like putting up his fingers to box and like see the scene and try to follow the butterfly. And it leads him to seeing this female figure from afar, flashing camera lights and whatever like that. And when she runs closer, I'm like, it's got to be Irie. I'm not positive because she's wearing the hat and everything, but once she takes it off, every emotion you see depicted on Satoru's face is what I'm feeling. I'm smiling. I'm becoming misty-eyed. I'm like, this, yes, yes. Pitch perfect, beautiful, melodic, simplistic in its magnificence ending. Exactly what I hoped it would be. And I know that there is some dissension from the manga readers and everything like that, but that is not my stake in life. I prefer to watch and review and, sort of just gauge an anime on its own merits. I rarely read manga, and when I do, there has never been a case where I've read a manga of a series that either I was going to be getting into or was especially going to be reviewing. I just don't do that. I don't understand the sort of predominant want to jump into a manga that's going to be adapted into an anime and ruin it for yourself. That's how I feel about it. I feel like it's spoiling everything and ruining it for myself. I don't want to go into an anime thinking I know more than, the creators of the anime and just be rueful in judgment of it. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be wholly different animals. And one of the things I really loved in hearing, I watched a video passed to me by one of you guys from the director talking about like the use of the film stock whenever he'd be flashing back on his past and all this kind of stuff was like, they were using the term replay, which is sort of the verbiage of what is going on when you're seeing the visual recollections of Satoru. But it's still a revival in the time travel sense and how creative they got with that in the visual medium that is anime. And the visuals in this anime, I think, at least for my money, have been exquisite, have been beautiful from beginning to end. This entire series has been magnificent. It has been emotional, like a roller coaster ride, giving you satisfaction, giving you laughs, giving you immense tension and horrific sort of, just anxiety, and giving you a thorough payoff in the end that feels satisfying. And I can't ask for anything more from an anime, and that's all I'm going to judge. The anime on its own merits. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of the finale of Erased, if you've seen it as well. Love it or hate it, anything goes in the comments below. If you happen to be a manga reader and you were disappointed, let me know why. But just realize that while I respect your opinion, I don't agree with it. I think the anime was brilliant. And for those who share in that opinion as well, let me know in the box below why that is. So yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.